Got it. So Deanna, can you hit, got it there? Great, thank you. And then, all right, I think we can start letting folks in from the waiting room. Thank you, Jen.
used to think you couldn't see me when I curled up tight. Now I know you see me, so I'm letting in the light. I can love you as you are. You can hold me in your arms. I couldn't see how I could open up as much as you. The colors of my being seem to stick inside like glue. Now the dust surrounds me, knowing what I have inside. I feel it in my molecules, it's ready to fly. I see you. Did you think that I could not see through? Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through? When I curled up tight. Now I know you see me, so I'm letting in the light. I couldn't see how I could open up as much as you. The colors of my being seem to stick inside like glue. Now the laughter surrounds me, knowing what I have inside. I feel it in my molecules, I'm ready to fly. Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through? Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through?
And now Jen Buchwald is back in our bell tower. And apparently, as are Sully and I with some plants, ready to ring our bell. Thank you, Jen.
Welcome to our beloved sanctuary, as well as to our digital sanctuary on Zoom. My name is Tom Keitel, and I'm coming to you from Maine on this beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Many thanks to Deanna Wong, who is our camera point person today, and to Jennifer Bottomley, who is our Zoom usher. Those of you who are here in person, we ask that you keep your mask on at all times while indoors. The worship associates and leaders may take off their masks at the mic when distanced from others, depending upon their own comfort level. As we begin our service today, we acknowledge that our church was built on the ancestral unceded land of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the devastating legacy of settler colonialism and the continuing harm done to Indigenous groups in our community and beyond. May our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion call us to take meaningful and restorative action to honor and protect the land and all her people. We gather today to recognize and celebrate the gift of life for ourselves and for all creatures with whom we share this planet, for the miracle of every breath, with wonder in our joys and compassion in our sorrows. At the close of today's service, you'll have time for sharing the joys and concerns of this gathered community. We invite all of you to bring your perspectives, your beliefs and doubts, and all that is unique and wondrous about you to our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. If you are new to Theater Parker or visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out a connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates and to help us welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as in our contact information. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill out the contact card you'll find in your pews with the bright yellow pamphlet. We'd like to offer a moment for those joining us remotely to greet those who are joining us in person. So, AV folks, could you please put out our sanctuary screen on gallery view so we can see all of our off-site congregation. Folks joining us on Zoom, we can see you in the sanctuary. So give a wave. And folks in the sanctuary, the camera is actually behind you, just below the clock. Folks in the sanctuary, wave a hello to the folks who are joining us remotely. Wonderful, thank you very much. We hope that each of you will find some comfort and carry with you over the week and some challenge for your thoughts. As always, we wish for each of you health, well-being, and a sense of peace. As our pianist, Yakiko, brings us into worship, with the morning movement of Mozart's Piano Sonata number 11 in A major. Andante grasso, we bid you welcome.
Thank you, Yukiko. Good morning, everyone, on this warm Memorial Day weekend. Many of us might associate Memorial Day first and foremost with barbecues and beaches and celebrating the beginning of summer, which is all good. And let's also hold the holiday's origins as a day to remember those who died in the course of their military service. There are a few different origin stories for American Memorial Day, but one of them that I sure didn't hear growing up was that this American holiday first was observed in 1865, just after the end of the Civil War, when African Americans gathered in Charleston, South Carolina, many of whom had been formerly enslaved, to hold a series of memorials and rituals to honor unnamed fallen Union soldiers and to boldly and visibly celebrate the struggle against slavery. Memorial Day or Decoration Day was observed in various forms throughout the years, and Congress declared Memorial Day a national holiday in 1971, broadened to honor all of those who had died in US wars. In this difficult, horrifying week in which weapons of war were brought again into our schools, I lift up this quote from the late World War II veteran and historian Howard Zinn, who wrote, "Memorial Day should be a day for putting flowers on graves and planting trees," he wrote. "Also, for destroying the weapons of death that endanger us more than they protect us, that waste our resources and threaten our children and grandchildren." Zinn wrote this in 1976. May we be called to remember those we have lost, to care for one another with an unending love, and to act boldly for the sake of peace. Because, beloveds, we are all in this together. In that spirit, I invite us into worship with these words from Reverend Kristen Harper, who serves one of our UU congregations on the Cape. Each day provides us with an opportunity to love again, to hurt again, to embrace joy, to experience unease, to discover the tragic. Each day provides us with an opportunity to live. This day is no different, this hour no more unique than the last, except maybe today, maybe now, among friends and fellow journeyers. Maybe for the first time, maybe silently, we can share ourselves. So may it be. We'll join now in singing our opening hymn, Morning Has Come. You'll find it at the very beginning of your teal hymnals if you wanted to follow along there, although it'll be up on screen. It was composed by Reverend Jason Shelton for a morning worship service at a UU Musicians Network conference. The story goes that it had been a rainy and gray week the whole time, but when it came time to debut this song, the sun came out and shone gloriously through the chapel windows. When our own days feel rainy or gray, literally or metaphorically, may hope, peace, and love come to each of us. Our music director, Michael Johnson, has this Sunday off, so we thank Ruth Kahn for leading us in the hymns this morning, along with Yukiko's accompaniment on piano. So in honor of this fresh new day, I invite us to rise in body, in spirit, or in voice to sing, Morning Has Come. Thank you. You may be seated. Each week, we light our flaming chalice, a symbol that connects us with Unitarian Universalist communities around the world. And this week, we have several of our new members to help out with that. So I'll invite up James Cross to help lead us in the English words. Claudia is joining us from Brazil, and we'll spotlight her to lead us in our Spanish words, which we say in honor of our sister community in Plazuelas. I invite any combination of Allison, Matt, and Daphne to come on up to help us light the chalice itself. The words will also be shared on your screen in just a moment. It begins with the word love. We're getting all of our bits going. You got it, Rose? Would you like me to? Here. I'll share screen. Oh, that's the wrong slide, but that's the right idea. Hey, okay.
All right.
Please, take us away.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Claudia, we just need you to unmute. There we go.
El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia. y el servicio en nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Thank you. Y'all can have a seat over there because we're going to be calling you up in just a moment anyway. Beautiful. One of the sweetest moments in the life of a congregation is when we get to welcome new members as we joyfully grow our spiritual family. I'm going to be joined up here by members of the welcoming ministry team and the chair of our standing committee, John Lambert. Y'all can come on up this way to welcome and celebrate 7 new members, plus a bonus baby member to be. So I'm going to invite you to come on up down here as I call your names. And we're also going to celebrate folks who joined in the course of these last pandemic years, but didn't quite get the same public ceremony. So for starters, I invite up Pat Hamilton, who joined last year and has brought herself in with gusto. Please come on up here. We'll have little gifts for each of you. Muriel Roberts. James Cross. If you come on up, just right up in. Carol Waldvogel and Mike Williams. Great. Allison McNabb, Matthew McNabb, and baby Daphne McNabb. I was comfortable. And Clydia Davenport. Perfect. We've got her up there. So we have little gifts for you as a symbol of welcome. I'm going to just keep saying some words, but you all stand there so we can look at you. With love, with love. Here in this congregation, human beings have gathered for centuries, seeking a higher purpose and a deeper life than they could find alone. We're grateful today for each and for all of you, that you have found your way here and that you have decided to make a commitment to this faith community. We hope that as members of this church, you will allow yourselves to know and to be known, to minister to and be ministered unto, to love and to be loved by this congregation. We never really know what combination of fate and friendship and good luck it is that brings certain people together in this world for any purpose. But we believe that membership in this church calls each of us here to celebrate the fate that has drawn us together and to regard each one a spiritual friend and potential teacher, even on occasional hard lessons. The relationships that we form in our church are based upon the needs of the soul, needs that render each of us vulnerable and therefore reliant on each other's grace and goodness and generosity of spirit. As members of this church, you pledge to be guardians of each other's spirits, to respect the ultimate privacy of each one's human struggle, and to believe in each one's inherent dignity. And so, to the assembled congregation of Theodore Parker Church, in person and online, united in the bonds of fellowship and love, these fine individuals are now members of this congregation of memory and hope. Will you please join with me in welcoming them with these words of congregational affirmation, which you'll see up on the screen and in the chat. Let's say them together. We welcome you as
members of the congregation into the community of all that we have been and are and hope to be. We welcome you into this community, spirit, learning, and service. We welcome you for who you are, for what you yearn to become. We ask that you accept us as we are, trusting that together we can be more than we have dared to imagine.
Beloveds, welcome home. Thank you. You're welcome to have a seat. Thank you. In honor of that kind of friendship, our centering hymn speaks to that companionship, both the regular everyday friendships, the idea of having a community of spiritual companions, and maybe for some, the idea of a capital F friend, something bigger that holds them. What Wondrous Love, which is number 18 in your gray hymnals if you wanted to follow along, is a classic American folk hymn from William Walker's Southern Harmony, also known as Shape Notes. Its melody is based on a sea shanty about Captain Kidd, and its original words are attributed to Reverend Alex Means. The version that we'll sing from our hymnal has lyrics by Connie Campbell Hart, who is an artist, musician, and member of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Detroit, Michigan. Let's rise in body or in spirit as we sing What Wondrous Love. Ruth, and you can go. Thank you. You may be seated. Let's continue in a mood of meditation or prayer. I invite you to check in with your posture. Make sure that your body is as comfortable as it can be right now. Take a few deep breaths. As we hold the tragedies of this week, if at any point you feel your emotions rising, you might want to gently tap on your sternum or rock your body or put your hand on your heart, whatever feels soothing for you. I offer this pastoral prayer adapted from Reverend Sherry Woodbury before we hold about a minute of silent witness together, followed by musical meditation. Spirit of life, we draw together in community at a time when we may feel both uplifted by the beauty of nature and weighed down by tragedies of human hands. Too many crises have piled one on top of another. Natural disasters, climate chaos, hateful acts fueled by racism, children harming children in a nation that has made guns all too easy to obtain and that has glorified violence. Spirit of love, be with the children. Help them to feel the love and the care of the many, many adults who wish to protect them and nurture them. May each one know what a precious person they are. Precious and deserving of safe communities in which to learn and to become. As the hearts of parents and teachers and others break yet again, let us also acknowledge that there is no right or wrong way to respond to such unspeakable news as we have had this week, this time from Uvalde, Texas. Fear is logical. Sobs and tears are unsurprising. Rage is understandable. Numbness or frozenness may protect us from taking in more than we are able yet to process. Whatever our reaction is, it's okay. Spirit of healing, help us to remember that such events trigger physical trauma response in the body. This trauma energy in the body needs to be moved on through us by action. Let us take practical actions like being deliberate in our voting, donating, or letter writing. And let us help to spread effective ways of resolving conflict, teaching the next generations how problems can be worked through with words, not weapons. Yet we know that such practical actions, while important, may not help to clear the imprint of trauma from our animal bodies. And so we gather with others to breathe, to cry, to sing together so that we can move forward. Because that is what we need as living flesh. Spirit of transformation, hear our troubled thoughts, witness our grieving hearts, and move through our activated bodies. Carry that energy cleanly through us so that in time we may emerge ready to serve life for our children and our children's children and all of the generations to come. So may it be. Let's join now in a minute of silence, followed by musical meditation.
Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something larger and bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with faith that together we have enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. As Yukiko shares variations number 4 from Mozart, Piano Sonata number 11, an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope is greatly received. Thank you.
Thank you again, Yukiko. And then, friends, thank you for your generosity. So last week you got Broadway, this week you get Bible. You get. Somebody made the point to me after the service, it was like, well, you use stuff like, sometimes we do Bible stuff. I'm like, yeah, actually you're getting it next week. So here you go. There's a story from the Bible that I've always been drawn to called about a woman named Hannah, or Hannah, depending on how you pronounce it. It's recounted in the book of 1 Samuel. Hannah is married to Elkanah, and she is the favorite among his wives. Multiple wives, just let it be. But she is unable to have children despite really wanting them. The other wives tease her mercilessly, and she yearns to have a child. She is so distraught by this that she spends her days weeping and fasting. Her husband can't understand her grief and asks Hannah why his love isn't as good as 10 sons. Hannah's soul is filled with bitterness, and she cries and pours out the prayers of her heart at the sacred space of the temple in Jerusalem. Now, in this prayer, she makes an elaborate vow to God, promising her future son's life in service to God. Now, the priest in the temple, Eli, sees her lips moving but cannot hear her voice. And so he jumps to the conclusion that she's a drunkard. He reprimands her, and yet she has the courage to reply, I'm not drunk. I'm pouring my heart out to the God of my great distress. Eli replies, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your prayer. Here is where the story touches my soul. The narrative concludes, "And the woman went on her way and resumed eating, and her expression was no longer downcast." There's a crucial, beautiful detail here. God's answer to Hannah's prayer, or not, wasn't what changed Hannah's expression and brought her back to life. It was the human interaction of a person witnessing and acknowledging her suffering that eased her pain. This, I believe, is an essential truth. Being seen and acknowledged matters. Being seen and acknowledged can save lives. And I believe that the act of seeing and acknowledging others is a religious and moral imperative. So I invite us to a show of hands here. How many of us have had awkward or painful teenage years, or maybe witnessed somebody else's awkward, painful teenage years? Yeah, me too. I'm looking online. Yep, okay, good. You're not alone. I bet that person also probably has experienced it, because it's a human thing. Being a teen is hard. For me, I sought refuge in the synagogue, clinging to the traditions and the prayers like lifelines. If I couldn't figure out the rules of the game of being a teenager, at least I could follow the rules of religious observance, and maybe, just maybe, find a place where I felt like I could fit in. Now, as you might guess, attending religious services for 3.5 hours on a Saturday wasn't a popular activity for too many of my secular teenage friends. When I walked into the sanctuary, I'd look around, trying to see if there were any friends in my age range with whom I could sit. There rarely were. So most Saturdays, I'd sit alone in the back row, probably about where John's sitting right now. I tried so hard to fit in. Sorry to call you out, John. You're just in just the right spot. I was like, there you are. For me, sitting alone in the back row was a sign of being afraid to engage. I tried so hard to fit in and to do everything right. Then comes Mr. Fred Malkin. Fred was larger than life. He was a regular at the synagogue, seemingly friends with everyone. And Fred, as I look back, I realized was actually my first music teacher. He volunteered at the Hebrew school and would teach us Jewish music, playing the piano very jauntily, big hands. And in synagogue, he would sing loudly, chat loudly during the service, and always made a point to accidentally bonk the microphone with his arm anytime he came up to it. I still think of Fred every time I hear that sound. Sorry to those online, that might have been really loud. One Saturday, I was in my usual spot, the otherwise empty pew in the back row, and the congregation and I were all standing and singing for one of the prayers. And Fred walked behind me, behind my pew, and I looked up at him and I caught his eye. With a faint smile on his face, he said, "I see you." Now, my first thought was that he must be talking to someone else. I probably actually looked over my shoulder. And my second thought was, well, that's kind of a creepy thing to say to someone. And my third thought then, he must have caught me doing something wrong. But I was trying so hard. I said. "I see you," Fred repeated with a little nod. "I see that you come every week and you sit by yourself, and I see how much you want to belong, and you seem lonely. Sometimes I feel lonely here too." Well, that boggled my mind. Fred, the biggest personality in the room, felt lonely here? He went on, "When I'm feeling lonely and worrying about fitting in, I sing harmonies. I'm going to teach you to sing harmonies too. And then he walked off, leaving me stunned but glowing a little. I felt seen. I felt acknowledged. I felt the constraining bonds of loneliness ease a little. Like Chana, someone recognized and gave voice to my pain and to my hope. And Fred, in his wisdom, he gave me a way in. True to his word, in the coming weeks, I'd hear him booming out a harmony from across the sanctuary. He'd catch my eye, nod and point to his ear, suggesting I should listen to what he was singing. I'd smile and listen and then join in once I got it. Pretty soon, I was improvising my own notes, and Fred and I would build these soaring harmonies around the congregation's ancient melodies. And people sitting in front of me would sometimes turn around in their pews to see where the music was coming from. And they'd see me and they'd smile, and then, miracle of miracles, they would talk to me over pastries after the service. There were two amazing gifts that Fred gave me. The first was an understanding of how I could choose to be a part of that community. I had been straining so hard to fit in, to sing literally the same melodies as everyone else, but couldn't stop feeling like I came up short. Singing harmonies was literally and metaphorically a way to be myself, to sing my own song and to let my originality enhance everyone else's experience. When we sang harmonies, we were in effect saying, I'm here. I am who I am. I will turn my loneliness into beauty. The second gift was companionship. Even though we rarely spoke to each other, I knew that Fred was an ally, a friend on the journey, and that made all the difference. I thought of Fred many years later when I heard this TED Talk from Drew Dudley. He was a leadership educator based out of Toronto. He told this story about his time working at a university, and I recognize that both of these stories reference somebody as a teen or young adult, but I know this is a lifetime phenomenon, so place yourself in the story as you see fit. So Drew Dudley tells this story. I went to a little school called Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick. And on my last day there, a girl came up to me and she said, I remember the first time that I met you. And then she told me this story that had happened 4 years earlier. She said, on the day before I started university, I was in the hotel room with my mom and my dad, and I was so scared and so convinced that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't ready for university, that I just burst into tears. And my mom and my dad were amazing. They were like, look, we know you're scared, but let's just go tomorrow. Let's go to the first day. And if at any point you feel that you can't do it, it's okay. Just tell us and we'll take you home. We love you no matter what. And she says, so I went the next day and I was standing in line getting ready for registration. And I looked around and I just knew I couldn't do it. I wasn't ready for college. I knew I had to quit. And she says to Drew, I made that decision, and as soon as I made it, there was this incredible feeling of peace that came over me. And I turned to my mom and my dad to tell them that we needed to go home, but just at that moment, you came out of the student union building wearing the most ridiculous hat I have ever seen. It was awesome. And you had this big sign promoting the charity Shinerama, which is students fighting cystic fibrosis. And you had a bucket full of lollipops. And you were walking along, and you were handing the lollipops out to people in line and talking about Shinerama. And all of a sudden, you got to me, and you just stopped, and you stared. Honestly, it was creepy. And then you looked at the guy next to me in line, and you smiled, and you reached in your bucket, and you pulled out a lollipop, and you held it out to him. You said, "You need to give a lollipop to this beautiful human standing next to you." And she said, "I have never seen anyone turn so beet red any faster in my entire life. He wouldn't even look at me, he just kind of held out the lollipop like this. And I felt so bad for this dude that I took the lollipop. And as soon as I did, you got this incredibly severe look on your face, and you looked at my mom and dad and you said, look at that, first day away from home and already she's taking candy from a stranger." And she said that was it, everybody lost it. 20 feet in every direction, everyone started to howl. And so she's telling this to Drew, and she says, "I know this is cheesy, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, but in that moment when everyone was laughing, I knew that I shouldn't quit. I knew that this was where I was supposed to be, and I knew that I was home. And I haven't spoken to you once in the 4 years since that day, but I heard that you were leaving, and I had to come up and tell you that you have been an incredibly important person in my life, and I'm gonna miss you. Good luck." And she walks away, and I am flattened, Drew continues. She gets about 6 feet away, and she turns around and smiles and goes, "You should probably know this too. I'm still dating that guy 4 years later." Drew says, "A year and a half after I moved to Toronto, I got an invitation to their wedding." Right? Here's the kicker, Drew continued. I don't remember that. I have no recollection of that moment, and I have searched my memory banks because that is funny, and I should remember doing it, but I don't. And that was such an eye-opening, transformative moment for me to think that maybe the biggest impact I'd ever had on anyone's life, a moment that had a woman walk up to a stranger 4 years later and say, "You've been an incredibly important person in my life," was a moment I didn't even remember. Drew Dudley concludes by asking his audience these questions, and I'll ask us here today too. This is going to be another show of hands opportunity. How many of you all have had a lollipop moment, a moment where somebody said or did something that you feel fundamentally made your life better? Great, thank you, most of us, wonderful. All right, show of hands, how many of you have told that person that they did it? Fewer, yeah. So here's what Drew says. He says, why not? We celebrate birthdays where all you have to do is not die for 365 days. And yet, we let people who have made our lives better walk around without knowing it. And every single one of you has been the catalyst for some kind of lollipop moment. You have made someone's life better by something that you said or that you did. And if you think you haven't, just think about all of those folks who didn't raise their hands saying they've told that person. You're just one of the people who hasn't been told. In his book, All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, Unitarian Universalist minister Robert Fulghum said, "You may never have proof of your importance, but you are more important than you think. There are always those who couldn't do without you. The rub is that you don't always know who." So, beloveds, here and now, this is my wish for us. Let's let each other know. Let's thank those who have made our lives fundamentally better by seeing us when we felt invisible. Let's pay that kindness forward and see and witness each other. And in case no one has said this to you recently, you are important, and I see you. And I am so glad that you are here. Amen. Our closing hymn gives voice to that sense of gratitude for the ways that we are connected to one another. Our closing hymn is For All That Is Our Life, with lyrics by Reverend Bruce Findlow, who was an Australian who discovered Unitarianism during World War II and then moved to England for theological studies at Oxford. The music was written by contemporary composer Patrick L. Rickey, who lives in Oakland, California. Let's rise in body, in spirit, or in voice as we sing For All That Is Our Life. Thank you. You may be seated. I want to extend some invitations to you all to continue participating fully in the life of this congregation. And first, I want to start out with a huge thank you to everyone who helped make yesterday's annual plant sale such a huge success. I know I woke up with dirt still under my fingernails, eager to see if the plants I planted outside made it through the night. So thank you to everyone who dug and potted and advertised and bought plants and set up, who cleaned, all of those things. And huge, huge thanks to, where did she go? Okay, to Jen Buchwald and Jennifer Bottomley for being spearheaders of this. Word is that we raised about $1,800 from that plant sale, which is wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And in fact, there are still some beautiful plants and pots left for purchase today. So as you head over, if you're here in person, as you head over to coffee hour just through this breezeway, there's plenty of plants. The Jens will be available to take your purchase and make it an enjoyable experience. The pots are in the windowsills in the parish hall. So please, if you needed an extra impetus to stick around for some coffee and refreshments, plants. A few more invitations coming up in the next few weeks. June is going to be a happening month here at Theodore Parker Church. On Saturday, June 4th, next Saturday, we have a family game night from 6 to 8. This is supporting and centering our families from the religious education program, but everyone is welcome if you would enjoy playing games with some awesome kids and families. So 6 to 8 p.m. in the parish hall, you are most welcome. And then the following day, Sunday morning, is going to be really special and beautiful. Rose is helping our coming of age preteens, early teens, 12 and 13-year-old middle schoolers, to lead us in a coming of age service where some of them will be sharing their own credos, the things that they believe. This is such a beautiful Unitarian Universalist ritual that many congregations do. I hope you'll be able to come and join and learn from our youngest teachers in this well, maybe not our youngest, as Daphne comes back down the hallway, teachers in this congregation. So please come and enjoy. Following that, there will also be led by our finance committee, an info session on our budget. So if you want to learn more ahead of our annual meeting, which will be the following Sunday, June 12th, after the service. So please feel free to come, ask questions, and learn from there. And I believe those are all of my announcements for now. So please feel warmly welcomed to participate in all of those things. And especially as the weather gets more and more beautiful, if you have an event that you're interested in inviting other church people to, whether it's going on a hike or a walk to a beach, or hosting a paint night or a game night or a discussion on a book, please email me or Rose or Sheila or Lisa in the office. We'd love to help make that happen, especially as summer comes closer. So consider that an open invitation. Following our postlude, we'll have a time together for sharing joys and concerns before we head over to coffee hour in the parish hall. Here are these closing words from Reverend Darcy Roque. There is too much hardship in this world not to find joy every day. There is too much injustice in the world not to right the balance every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do, my words got all jumbled here. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of the divine presence every day. Go in peace. Amen. Thank you, Yukiko. Beloveds, whenever we gather, we know we gather with joys and sorrows and concerns and hopes and prayers